What's up, guys? Welcome back to another TheSportUniverse podcast. It's me, Brian, and I'm joined with Nick.
What's going on, guys?
All right, so a little logistical stuff before we actually get into it. So we just had the Keith Wright interview, which I want to thank Mr. Wright for. He's definitely is not listening to this, but I'll just put it out there now. This is, once again, really nice being able to interview a player. We have another interview lined up next week with a college basketball player. His name's John Axel Guðmundsson. I'm just guessing there. He's from Iceland, so there's a lot of different ways to pronounce things. He plays for Davidson, but I'll put out a post just to give some more background of him. But from that, I guess we'll start. We usually start with football, but I wanted to start with baseball this week since I think it's a little bit more pressing considering it's the World Series right now. So the World Series is currently tied 2-2. The Astros are actually winning right now, 2-0. And obviously the Astros made a big comeback. They were down 2-0, which I am very happy about. And I'm sure you're not happy about it, though.
I want the Astros to win now.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I see it from perspective of this point that, you know, if the Yankees lose to a team and that team goes on to the World Series, the only team good enough to beat that team was the champions. So that means the Yankees were in your mind were the runner-ups.
That's actually, I've definitely felt that way about certain things. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, I want the Nationals to lose, being a Mets fan. It's kind of interesting. I read that the Nationals, I think it was probably after they won Game 2, they started rehearsing how the World Series celebration would happen at Nationals Park, and they haven't won a game since, and they also can't win at home anymore.
Yeah, they can't win at home anymore. I saw that. Yeah.
Which, I wonder if that's a thing people teams do. I'm sure it is, because that just seems like a total way to jinx yourself.
Yeah.
But it's kind of funny that that's an actual thing that happened.
I'm just confused. Is it the staff was rehearsing it, or was the team actually involved?
It wasn't the team. It was the staff.
Yeah, which makes more sense to me.
Yeah, definitely.
If the team was involved, then they definitely, that's kind of a not good move there.
That makes zero sense.
Yeah.
Considering who they're up against and it being the World Series. So the Astros have been able to make their comeback. It's been largely due to pitching. Zach Greinke didn't have the greatest game, but their next pitcher, I'm just going to guess, Jose Urquidy, I don't know. Was really good. He only allowed 4 hits over 5 innings, but their bullpen has really been good for them. In total for the pitching, they've only given up 2 runs to the Nationals the past 2 games, which obviously is the reason they've won the past 2 games. I don't know. Who's pitching tonight? Do you know?
I think it might be Cole, if
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
I would guess that's
I believe it's Cole.
Let me see. Yeah, it is Garrett Cole. He's doing
Yeah.
good. Other than that, I wrote an article about it. I'm happy that, when I was saying, if the Nationals, If the Nationals ended up winning, it wouldn't be the worst thing because Bryce Harper would probably be sad, and I'm good with Bryce Harper being sad. He's, my least favorite baseball player. There's nothing to like about Bryce Harper, in my opinion. He seems to just, be obsessed with himself. But I could just be me being biased since I'm a Mets fan. Besides that, there's nothing really else going on. Oh, I could talk about the Mets for a little bit.
I just want to talk about the Astros real quick. Okay. I'm a butt in real quick. It was funny because me and my roommate Liam, he's pretty big into baseball, big Yankees fan. Talk about how I talked about in the last podcast that the Astros are going to sweep possibly. Mm-hmm. Obviously, they didn't. I think the Nationals kind of stole an extra game than they really should have, and it's kind of on the Astros. But that first game was Scherzer pitching. And the Astros, just coming out of that hell of a fight with the Yankees in the last series, as I said in that last podcast, I could definitely see them winning one game. The fact they won 2 is pretty interesting to me. The Nationals can't win at home now. I think it's definitely going to be a pretty interesting series because how many in a row can the Astros, beat the Nationals?
Yeah.
Are they going to beat them all 4 in a row? Are the Nationals going to pick up a win here and then make it like a Game 7?
Yeah.
So I think how it plays out from here is going to be pretty interesting. And I hope the Astros pitching does well because hopefully the Yankees pick up one of the pitchers from the Astros, like Cole.
Yeah.
Because they're going to need that.
Hopefully not.
Some pitching going into next season. Hopefully, make us those World Series shoo-ins.
Does your roommate want the Astros to win too?
Yeah. He doesn't want them to win, but he really wants Cole. He doesn't really care.
Yeah.
As long as he can get Cole.
Mm-hmm.
So the Astros hitting has picked up a lot too.
Yeah.
Was it 8 runs in back-to-back games?
It was 4-1 game 3 and then 8-1.
Yeah, 8-1. It was 8. It was 4 and then 8.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Astros pick it up. See how it goes.
It sucks I forgot to mention this, but Max Scherzer was scratched from the game today.
Yeah, because of neck spasms.
Yeah, that's definitely their best pitcher going down in the World Series is not a good thing.
I've had those and they're horrible. I feel bad for him so badly.
What are they like? Does your neck just hurt, or it's just
like... your neck's just like I get them. I've had them a lot more in like my forearms and biceps. Like after I've worked out, you're in constant pain in your neck in whatever your body has muscle spasms. It constantly feels like I don't know if you ever worked out and like I don't know, did a bicep curl or something like that where you like a really heavy bicep curl where you're continuously like using that muscle. And then after it gets tired, it gets really strained. It kind of starts to hurt. It feels like that constantly. It's extremely it's very uncomfortable. It's not a fun situation.
Yeah, I'm sure. Other than that, I guess I'll go into the Mets a little bit. They're still in search for their manager. They did something really stupid. Like they announced like they have a bombshell candidate or something. It came out like that was very stupid. I don't know why they said that. I don't know also how that came out. It was just seemed like not something they should do. Just like I don't even know how to explain it right, but why would you make your fans? I don't know, whatever. But other than that, Joe Girardi is now the Phillies manager, and he was the guy that I wanted the Mets to sign. He just seemed like the perfect fit for them. They wanted someone who had obviously some background in managing, going away from a Mickey Callaway type. And also, he's had success in New York, 2 major things that the Mets were looking for. But now it seems, I saw that Eduardo Perez, was an ESPN analyst and stuff, is the likely candidate. At this point, I really don't care. I kind of want Carlos Beltran just because it's like a fun name, but maybe that shouldn't be how I go about picking the next manager for the Mets.
Do you think the Mets inquired Girardi and like brought him in for an interview, or do you think they didn't even bother at all? Like, do you think Girardi turned down the position possibly?
Well, actually, yes. He had a second interview with the Mets, but it came out that the Phillies were the only one that offered him an actual contract as a manager. Like
so the Mets didn't even offer him a contract.
Yeah. The same with the Cubs too. It was the Cubs, Mets, and Phillies that had interviewed him, which is kind of surprising. But I mean, I would expect those teams to off. But whatever. I don't know. I'm not like a front office guy, so I guess I don't know what I'm talking about.
We won't know what went on in those rooms, in those interview rooms, but it had to be pretty interesting.
Yeah. I wonder, like, I don't get, like, what makes one manager stand out over the other. Like, there's a guy, I forgot his name, but he's a candidate for the Mets job, and they were saying that he interviewed well. Like, I feel like all these guys are going to interview well, if they're, but whatever. Yeah. I guess we'll get into NFL stuff. I'll talk about the Jets for a little bit, and then you can go off on some NFL stuff.
Yeah.
We were discussing, before I get into it, about going on now, since it's getting later into the season, we want to be able to focus more on the more important games. So if there's some games against, obviously, teams that aren't good and aren't in it, we'll kind of gloss over them, give the score update and everything, and then focus on the bigger games. But I wanted to talk about the Jets, so there's actually 2 games for me to go over this week. 2 very disappointing games. The Jets were completely annihilated by the Patriots, 33-0. A type of game that Sam Darnold definitely wants to forget, and could be a game that like kind of makes Sam Darnold not great quarterback for at least this year or going on. I don't know if that makes sense, but it kind of reminded me of a couple years ago when Michael Conforto, who's a Mets player, was coming up, he was doing really good, and he went up against Madison Bumgarner when Madison Bumgarner was really good, and he got I think he struck out 5 times, and for the rest of the season he couldn't put it back together, and I'm worried that that's going to happen with Sam Darnold, because today he didn't have a great game, and coming off 4 interceptions against the Patriots, obviously something that he wants to forget. And out of that game, he had his seeing ghost comments, which kind of, I mean, you play football. What is, I kind of understand what that means, but why is that, considered, I get it's kind of embarrassing, but why was it, such a big deal?
I don't know. I was going to talk about it in the controversial topic, possibly.
Oh, okay. We'll save it for the end.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that later, so we'll get back into that.
Yeah, you guys got to listen to the end now.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll hold off on what I was going to say. This week, they lost to the Jaguars against Gardner Minshew, who continues to play really well. I don't know where he's come from, but that's probably his mustache giving him his powers. Sam Darnold had 3 interceptions. I don't know if I can completely blame him for 2 of them. It seemed like he was trying to do too much to get the Jets back into the game and was just kind of throwing under duress and just once again trying to get them back into the game. They ended up losing, was it 28-15? 29-15? What was it? Exactly.
What team? The Jaguars and Jets?
Yeah.
15-29.
15-29. Yeah, so their defense did not play that great, and it just was another not great game on both sides of the field for the Jets, which is a very annoying thing. They're just not a great team. Mm-hmm. But other than that, there's not much more to say.
Yeah. I mean, the Jets have definitely struggled this season, and it looks like they're going to be another good draft pick this year for the first round.
I guess so.
And the Jaguars, they're kind of a mediocre team right now. They're still trying to find their place.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting to see where the Jaguars go. In terms of Gardner Minshew, he's been pretty good. He went to college at East Carolina last year. He's a draft pick.
Yeah.
As many of you know. I watched this podcaster too. His name is Zach Schomer. He has a YouTube, and it's called Strong Opinion Sports. I would recommend you guys check it out. He does analytical breakdowns of certain players and certain things. He's really big into football, actually, and quarterbacks in football. And he talked about Gardner Minshew a lot over during the draft. He said he was going to be pretty good. So he's one of the only people that I've heard predict Gardner Minshew's success in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So I thought that's pretty interesting. So if you guys want to go check him out, he makes some pretty good videos. Would recommend. That being said, are you done with the Jets then?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm just gonna do quick interviews of games, and I'll probably with the trade deadline approaching on the 29th, which is happening in 2 days. I'm probably gonna do quickly my first thoughts on what teams could possibly use going into the second half of the season. So the first game for this week was Thursday. It was the Redskins and the Vikings. The Redskins at 1-7 now after they lost 9-19 to the Vikings. The Vikings moved to 6-2. The Redskins season has been an utter failure. The coaching is terrible. They seem to lack a lot of talent. Adrian Peterson did move up to 6th on the NFL rushing title though. So, congrats to Adrian Peterson. I've always been an Adrian Peterson fan. In terms of his, it's on the field play. Yeah. What he does outside the field is another story. But so the Redskins moved to 1-7, and I'd probably say start Dwayne Haskins if I was a Redskins fan. Give him a shot. Let him face his struggles. There's nothing to lose from letting him start at this point. And I'd say the number one need for the Redskins, post trade deadline is probably a new coach, because you probably have to solve your issues through the draft. Yeah. But a new coach would be helpful because Jay Gruden is just not getting the job. Didn't they fire him?
I thought that might be true. I'll look it up.
I can't remember if they actually fired him or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did get fired. Yeah, so find a new long-term head coach. I forgot they fired him over the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, so find a new long-term head coach. And then the Vikings, they're very hot right now. Kirk Cousins seems to be working. I don't know why I keep thinking Case Keenum's. Definitely keep him at quarterback. Wide receiver core is good. The offensive line is solid. There's not much to improve there. Maybe I'd go linebacker there, D-line. I don't even know. The Vikings have a pretty sound team. It's just whether they can put it all together, honestly. Moving on, the 1 o'clock games today, we had the Giants versus the Lions. The Lions win 31-26. Giants moved to 2-6. Saquon Barkley looked really good. Daniel Jones looked a lot better today, not as much turnovers. In terms of Daniel Jones, he was really hot at the beginning of the season, and he's kind of cooled down now. He's looking a lot more like the Eli Manning prediction that I posted months ago when they first drafted him. But today he looked a little better than Eli. I think his ability to run really separates him from Eli Manning. It makes him, in my opinion, better than Eli Manning going into his future of his career. That again, his ability to run might be able to separate him from that stigma of just being another Eli Manning. So we'll see where that goes. So it's a good game for Daniel Jones. Giants defense again just cannot come up with anything. The worst defense in the NFL. There's rumors of Pat Shurmur being fired. We'll see how that goes. I don't necessarily think he needs to be fired. We do lack a lot of talent on defense. I know the Giants are looking to trade possibly Janoris Jenkins since he's getting older, as well as some other players, possibly Evan Ingram, one of the receivers, just to get more talent elsewhere. Personally, I don't think we really need to trade anybody, possibly Janoris Jenkins because, again, aging corner. Look to fix the line in the draft. I'd probably possibly trade for somebody in the secondary, maybe like an Aqib Talib or I don't know. I don't know to the point because Aqib Talib's a veteran. So maybe a younger player that could really help out the defense going past the different trade deadline. And the Lions, on the other hand, moved to 3-1 under Matt Patricia, who's having a better second season than he did the first. The Lions are one of those mediocre teams. It doesn't seem like they're going to really win much, but they're not going to be terrible at the same time.
It seems like they're always
Yeah, they're always pretty mediocre, so we'll have to see how the rest of the season goes for them. I really couldn't say what they really need right now because, they're very hit or miss. So it's hard to tell for teams that are really hit or miss what they need, especially with, teams that don't seem to be having a consistent problem. Moving on, the Seahawks won 27-20 today against the Falcons. The game was a little closer than what they would have expected, but Seahawks come out on top. Russell Wilson looks great. The defense looks great. Pete Carroll is a good coach. So going into the second half of the season, I wouldn't expect much change. Maybe I don't even know what you would pick up. Work on the interior D line maybe because now you have Jadeveon Clowney coming off the edge. It shouldn't be too much of a problem. And their safety, maybe a possible safety since they no longer have Earl Thomas. Going on the Falcons side, the Falcons season is pretty gone now. Possibly, as I said last week, time for a new head coach. Look for the draft going on as a Falcons fan going forward. Moving on, the Chargers skimmed by the Bears at 17-6. The Chargers move up to 3-5, and the Bears fall to 3-4. The Chargers have pretty much been disappointing this season. I don't know I don't really know where the problem's coming from. They definitely have the talent. They're one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. They're kind of like the Browns, where they have talent, but they're just not winning. I'm not really sure what's the solution there. On another note, I saw in the news today. I don't know if anybody's heard, but this rumor has it that Tom Brady might be leaving the Patriots.
Yeah. Oh, please.
And the Chargers, and people are for some reason I think this is ludicrous. We'll preface it with that. They're thinking he's going to go to a different team, not just retire. And the number one team that people think he's going to go to is the Chargers. And I don't know if I could see Tom Brady on the Chargers. It just doesn't make any sense. They have Phillip Rivers, who's just another veteran quarterback. It just doesn't make any sense, but, make of it what you want.
I don't think anyone can see Tom Brady on another team.
Yeah, so that's his rumored team to go to. So keep an eye out for that, for you conspiracy theorists out there.
Off of that, so Adam Schefter had this whole thing about it that I saw.
Yeah.
He said that he was able to get his contract to end after this season. He sold his house, which never really actually does anything for these rumors, his was it his agent or his trainer sold his house too? It was one of them. So there's
his trainer.
Yeah, his trainer. There's some things to that, but I feel like all those rumors never really make sense. They never really come out as being okay, yeah, they're actually leaving, but it'll be nice if he does.
Yeah, I personally think that's more of a indication that he's going to retire and probably move to somewhere warmer. Enjoy his retirement.
Either's good.
You probably wouldn't want to stay. I don't know. For me, you wouldn't want to stay in cold New England. You'd probably want to move somewhere warmer where you can just enjoy the rest of your life. But I wouldn't be surprised if he stays in New England for another year. I highly doubt he'd go to a different team.
Yeah.
Moving on from the Chargers, the Bears. They need I think Matt Nagy's a pretty solid coach. They might be looking for a new quarterback. Mitch Trubisky has not really improved at all over his past 2 years in the NFL. So that might be the number one get for the trade deadline, second leg of the season. So, possibly a Mariota trade. Because the Titans, I would look for Mariota or to be on the move or Ryan Tannehill, one of those two.
Or maybe
I'm leaning towards Mariota right now.
What's his face? Teddy Bridgewater. Because Drew Brees is back.
Teddy Bridgewater is going to stay where they're at because I think they're going to see the Saints are definitely going to be cautious now that Brees has had that injury.
That's true.
I think they're going to keep Bridgewater. I would definitely. It seems like the Titans are done with Mariota, so be on the lookout for him to move it at the trade deadline within the next couple days. The Cardinals. Speaking of the Saints, the Saints beat the Cardinals 31-9. The Saints moving to 7-1. They're looking great under Teddy Bridgewater, but Drew Brees comes back this week, and the Saints would be absolutely ludicrous not to bring back Drew Brees. That team really doesn't look like it has too many holes right now. Maybe
Drew Brees started today.
Did he actually?
Yeah.
Okay, he's back. Yeah.
373 yards and 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, that was just me, like my frame of mind, thinking that the games hadn't happened yet. But yeah, he was coming back today.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he came back. Teddy Bridgewater goes back to the bench. The Saints look good. There's not really much improvement they need there. Definitely one of the Super Bowl contending teams.
Yeah.
A lot of good teams this year in the NFL. I have to say, like
the Jets and the Giants.
I feel like it's one of those years where there's a lot less mediocre teams.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Like the Jets and the Giants.
Yeah. We recovered the Jets and the Giants. By the way, the Cardinals, they're 3-4-1 now. I think they should keep building through the draft. The fact that they're 3-4-1 with a really young core that has a good amount of talent and a newer coach, I think they're a team that's definitely, as the draft goes on and they make trades. I don't necessarily they think they need to make trades at the deadline right now, but going on, they're definitely a team like the next year or two. I definitely see them, watch out for them to improve into a playoff team because they have a lot of young talent, and it seems like they're going to finish in a place this year where they'll have another solid draft coming up. Not as good as last year, but another solid draft to really help build out the rest of their team. So, look for that. It should be interesting. We're going to talk Jaguars and Jets. Next game, the Colts skimmed by the Broncos, 15-13. Colts are somehow winning under Jacoby Brissett. Means that your luck was bad. No, I'm just kidding. If you're a Colts fan, that's pretty solid to see because they have a pretty good lineup, pretty good team that they built, with Andrew Luck at the helm. The fact that Jacoby Brissett's been able to bring the team to 5-2 is really good news as a Colts fan. The coach is really good. I can't think of his name right now. I don't know why I can't. He got the beard with the circular glasses. I can't think of his name. The Broncos, Flacco has not worked out well for them. I'd probably suggest starting Drew Lock because I'm personally a pretty good fan of Drew Lock. Give him a shot. And a lot of these teams that are really bad, like the Broncos, there's no trade that's going to give them a solution to their team. So those are just teams that they're going to have to sit the season, take their losses and then build through the draft again. Moving on, you had the Eagles-Bills. The Eagles destroyed the Bills 31-13 today. The Eagles moved to 4-4. The Eagles are one of those teams that I can't really tell what is the problem. I mean, I think that their secondary is what most people would consider the biggest problem is, but at the same time, their secondary has really good games. They've been injured. So, if anything, the Eagles should trade for a cornerback. I think that would be their number one need right now. But it's kind of hard to say again because they have on and off games. The Bills, they took their second loss of the season. To be expected. The Bills have a pretty young core, especially in offense, and their defense has been pretty solid up to this point, so the fact that they had one slip-up's not the end of the world. The Bills, to me, are still a playoff team. I don't think there's really one trade that's really going to help them that much right now. Possibly at wide receiver, give Josh Allen some more weapons at wide receiver. and then they should keep building their O-line through the draft because their defense is kind of solidified right now. So yeah, that would be the Bills. Moving on, the Titans beat the Buccaneers 27-23. In terms of the Buccaneers, they're 2-5 now. Jameis Winston has really not worked out for them. I don't think there's any trade that's going to solve them. I think it's going to be draft again. Is going to be their solution. I'd go draft and see how Bruce Arians does because I don't think it's definitely Bruce Arians just came back. You can't really blame it on him. Give him another year. Let him work with the draft. On the Titans side, Mariota hasn't worked out for them. It was a team of the two failed quarterbacks from 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And again, as I said, look for them to move Mariota and then build through the draft from here on out. The Bengals have slowly moved into 0-8. Under everyone's radar, they're the second worst team in the NFL. Pretty terrible. There's again no trade that's going to really solve their solution. Definitely built through the draft. The Rams are 5-3, which is lower than everyone else expected. They just acquired Jalen Ramsey, so their secondary got better. Their D-line has Aaron Donald on it. Their O-line has good solid veterans on it. So I think the Rams just need to get it together. It's just not really. They have the talent. They have the coaching. They're just one of those teams that really needs to step on the pedal and not let go. One of the biggest blowout today was a 51-13 win for the 49ers over the Panthers.
Whoa.
In terms of the Panthers, Kyle Allen loses his first game as a starter. He had a pretty rough outing. Nick Boat, and he got destroyed by their defense. The Panthers are, again, one of those teams that I don't really know what the solution is. They've had injuries, and they're good one week, they're bad one week, so it's kind of hard to tell. On the 49ers side, they're looking really good. In my opinion, they're like the second best team in the NFL, and they're pretty under the radar too. Most people would probably, in my opinion, would consider like somebody like the Saints or again, the Saints is the number one team that comes to my mind when I think of like second best team, or maybe like the Packers. The 49ers have moved to 7-0, and the stats and the numbers don't lie that they're a really good team. Nick Bosa today was incredible. Just watching him pass rush is a work of art. That he can really bend, and he's really good flexibility. So it was a great draft pick for the 49ers. He's really changed their defense as a single player. He has changed their defense into something really well. As long as they acquired D Ford too. So the fact that they have two really good edge rushers, and they have a solid interior core, along with like Richard Sherman in the secondary. So their defense is really good. The other side, Jimmy Garoppolo and Kittle have been really good. So it's been a really good season for the 49ers, and everything's clicking. So hats off to them. Obviously no changes need to be made. They're 7-0. The biggest game today, in my opinion, was the Patriots moved to 8-0. They beat the Browns 27-13. The Browns moved to 2-5. The Browns, which I talked about last week, it's an ego and coach problem. Those are their two biggest issues. If they can fix those, I think they have the talent to win. But if they can fix their egos, get to work, find the right coach, they can be a good team in the future. Again, I don't think there's really a trade that they really need to do. Although their biggest issue is their offensive line, but I'd probably, if they tank this year, fire their coach, hire the right one, and they build to the draft. I think their team, even though they were Super Bowl contender this year going into preseason, because of just pure talent wise, I think next year really could be their year. This Patriots team is the best team currently, statistically, is the best team we've ever seen in the NFL. They dominate every team beyond belief. Their defense is the best it's ever been a defense before. The defense is so good that quarterback passer ratings would be better if they just spike the ball every single play rather than actually run plays. Up until this point, they have been absolutely incredible. There's nothing they need to fix. They just picked up Mohamed Sanu. That was the one problem that Belichick saw coming, was that they may not have enough firepower wide receiver, and they just got better there. I really can't see where the Patriots need to improve. If I had to pick something to improve about the Patriots, I would say is they could use a really good pass rusher, because watching today, they don't really have anybody that's like a really superior pass rusher. So if they need to rush three, they're not going to have anybody that's that's really going to get home. It's all based on scheme, which their scheme is the best in the NFL. It's impeccable. The Patriots look great, I have to say. An incredible team. Tom Brady is looking like he's going for his 7th ring this year.
Yeah, they're so good.
We're almost done, guys. Texans wound up beating the Raiders 27-24. Raiders moved to 3-4, and the Texans moved to 5-3. In terms of the Raiders, they're one of those teams that, they lost Antonio Brown at the end of the season. It was a big question mark how good they were going to be. They drafted pretty well in like Josh Jacobs, but they still seem like they're a step away. I don't think there's really a trade that they need to do. Derek Carr's been like a mediocre quarterback, and they've had mediocre play, good play, bad play. I think I can't think of the coach's name right now. Why am I blanking out? John Gruden really needs to figure out what kind of personnel he has and see how he can use them, as well as I think the draft would help them going ahead. I don't really see them as a playoff team. The Texans, I definitely could see as a playoff team, although they did have one setback today. I'll get to that in a second. Deshaun Watson was incredible today. He's looking like him and Mahomes have been the best quarterbacks out of that draft, and Deshaun Watson today was breaking sacks. He was making great plays. It's just really good game for Deshaun Watson, and he's looking like he might be an MVP candidate at the end of the year. I doubt that he's going to win it, but I'm just saying he could be one of those candidates, that's somewhere in the top 10 list. Terrible news for Texans and upsetting news to me. J.J. Watt tore his pectoral muscle today, effectively ending his season. I think he's going to require surgery. J.J. Watt's one of those generational talents that we'll never get to see really play at his full potential just because of unfortunate injuries. I was a really big fan of J.J. Watt, and he's obviously when he's been healthy, he's been incredible. I'm sad to see him get injured. Best of luck to him. And then the final game that's happening now is the Packers and Chiefs. The Packers and Chiefs are currently tied. I have to say the Chiefs, they're tied 14-14. The Chiefs don't look as good without Mahomes. They really need him back. Their offensive dynamic is just not the same, and Chiefs defense is not good enough to hold its own against really good teams like the Packers. I expect the Packers to come out with a win in this one. On the other side, I know I talked about the Packers in the past. Aaron Rodgers looks good with the new coach, and everything seems to be clicking well, and the defense has been impeccable. So, the Packers are one of those teams, possible Super Bowl contenders. They really changed the team around. They went from mediocre team to this really good team once again. It seems like the coaching change was really the solution for them. Speaking of that, these teams that need new coaches, Mike McCarthy might not be a bad coach. He has a ton of experience. He's won Super Bowls. His schemes might be a little outdated, but the fact that he's had some time off and he might be coming back, if he was to come back, he might have some good schemes to really change things up and help the team win.
Yeah.
Look for him to possibly be a coaching hire going into the future. And then the final game, which is tomorrow night, Monday, 8:15, you got the Dolphins versus the Steelers. We all know how bad the Dolphins are, and the Steelers have been pretty bad too. Yeah. Steelers defense is one of those favorite defenses to pick up in fantasy if you're looking for a good defense to pick up on the waiver wire.
Yeah.
So that is my NFL spiel for the day.
Okay. I guess we'll get into the NBA now. I want to talk about the Knicks for a little bit. So the Knicks are kind of interesting because they're 0-3, but their 3 games they've played really well. Obviously the Celtics game, their fourth quarter just completely made the whole game seem like it was a bust for them, getting a blowout and everything. But against the Spurs and the Nets, they were able to stick in it the whole game. It just seems like they don't have a score to go to in the end, and they get into these droughts that completely get them out of the game and make them obviously lose. Specifically, when they played against the Nets, they were up by 3 for 2 minutes, and they had chance after chance to extend the lead, and nothing was going in. They didn't know who to go to. I think they relied too much on Julius Randle, and Julius Randle's a good player, but he's not that go-to scorer that I feel like they need. But again, that comes with them being a rebuilding team and not having all the pieces that they're going to need to be that great team. RJ Barrett has been playing really well for them. I think he's averaging probably close to 20 points. I mean, it's also only been 3 games, but he seems to just do almost everything right. He's good on defense. He makes his shots. The only thing is his free throws, which for all the Knicks have just been a struggle. Dennis Smith Jr., I don't really know what is to say with him. I think it's definitely his injury has kept him from getting into the flow of things, which is probably a big problem for him. I think he's averaging like 1 point over the 3 games. I felt really bad because yesterday, during the game, he missed a shot, and then the Garden started like chanting, "We want Frank," which isn't to say that I don't want to see Frank Ntilikina play, but it's just when your home crowd goes against you, it's like probably one of those really bad feelings that you don't want to feel. Maybe that'll give him some. It's definitely going to take away from his confidence, which isn't going to help, but maybe it'll give him some reason to want to get really good.
Fire in his soul.
Yeah, fire. There we go. Yeah, that's the story with the Knicks. I feel like once they can figure it out, they'll be able to be competitive throughout the season, which will be nice.
Mm-hmm. I guess in my opinion, just to go off of that as a secondary Knicks fan, Knicks are my favorite second team, hometown team. RJ Barrett, I really believe in him. I met him over the summer, and he seemed to be really nice. A guy walked up to him. I might have said this on the podcast before, and said, like, I want you to save the Knicks. And he was like, him and his family were like, yeah, we hope so too. I definitely think he has the potential. He has the work ethic, so I think he has a ton of talent. People forget that he was the number 1 basketball player going into college last year. Yeah. Before Zion really swept up the news media, and that kind of like drew him, even though he may have not been the better player in college. People just kind of underestimate how good RJ Barrett is. I think RJ Barrett, you're going to be seeing 20-point games out of him for a while in his rookie year. Definitely one of those players that can be in the candidacy for Rookie of the Year. And in terms of Dennis Smith Jr., like I definitely have faith in him. I think he has a ton of talent, and his injuries sort of holding him back. Yeah. But at the same time, although he's only had like 1 point, I think, or whatever it was over the past 3 games, people fail to realize how much minutes he's getting. He's getting like 5 to 10 minutes a game. He's getting minimal time. Like if he was in the game for a while and was shooting like 20 shots and going like 1 for 20, I'd see that. Mm-hmm. But he's shooting like 0 for 3 and he's in the game for like 5 to 10 minutes. He's not only is injury holding him out, but him not getting minutes from Fizdale is also not allowing him to get into a rhythm either, which is kind of important in basketball to be able to get a shooting rhythm and a playing rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I do have to say with that, I feel like he should definitely be getting more playing time, but I don't know how much more because he is.
Don't be giving him 48 minutes a game, but maybe kicking it up to 10, 15, maybe even 20 minutes in a game might help him a lot. Because
Fizdale obviously doesn't want them to be like star of the game, and they need the best players right now. But I really don't like Dennis Smith Jr. being on the bench considering what trade he came out of. But obviously the Kristaps trade. But yeah, I guess
I think the Knicks have too many guards, and I don't say they had too many guards, but especially last year they had too many guards. And I don't think Fizdale has not done a good job with like the surplus of guards the Knicks have had, and how to rotate them because so far the way he's rotated them is he's given them all like equal minutes, and I just don't think that works.
Except for Frank.
You got to find who. Yeah, you got to figure out who works and who doesn't. And I think Frank should just get released. I think he's useless. From the day he was drafted, I never thought he was good.
Yeah, I don't think anyone.
I saw him as being an Andre Roberson his best, and who wants him? Are you going to? What was he? The 6th overall pick?
8th, I think.
8th or whatever it was. You're going to spend that good of a pick on an Andre Roberson. I just don't see it.
It was a mistake from the beginning.
Yeah. So that's my Knicks spiel.
I guess you can talk about the Warriors if you want.
All right, yeah. So today the Warriors were face the Thunder. They were actually down 70. The Thunder were up 70 to 37.5. I think in the fourth quarter the score was like 58 to 100. It was something ridiculous. The final score wound up being 120 to 92. So the Warriors did make somewhat of a comeback, but it was definitely an embarrassing win or embarrassing loss for the Warriors. It seems that they don't have the firepower to score in the defense that they once had. With KD removed and Clay removed, it's a lot of their talent gone. D'Angelo Russell and Steph Curry, although very talented, the both of them, it's hard to win with just 2 guards. Like you definitely need some big man help, which I think the Warriors are kind of struggling to find right now. Although like Draymond Green and Eric Pascal, who went to Villanova, shout out to him. I think they're really good power forwards, but they're not players that you can really bang down low on the boards. They're not going to be like good post players or really great rebounding. The Warriors are not a great rebounding team as of right now. They don't have any bigs that can really bang down low. So, I think that's what they're really missing. As well as like their heart was out of Clay. I feel like the Warriors, the team heart was out of Klay Thompson. Like, how many times has he came back in games and just shot like 13 for 13 from behind the arc and really got the team, behind a comeback win or really, drove them to win. So I think, without Klay Thompson, the team's heart is missing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that you're definitely going to see some struggles early on, especially, on top of all that, you're also including another star player into your lineup, and that takes time to develop.
Yeah, I think one of the other problems for them, which I guess you hinted at, was going from having all their stars to now having Steph Curry and D'Angelo Russell is definitely going to take a little time for them to figure out who they are now, because they're used to just blowing everyone out, and obviously that's not going to be the case anymore. And also, maybe Steve Kerr isn't as good of a coach as everyone thinks he is, because he was just blessed with having so much talent right from the beginning. What's next?
Another game I wanted to talk about was the Suns. They upset the Clippers.
Yeah.
Which was pretty interesting because Suns are one of the worst teams in the NBA right now. Mm-hmm. They really don't have that much talent. They're definitely a rebuilding franchise. DeAndre Ayton's out for 25-game suspension for using a diuretic, which is... I should actually want to cover that while I'm here. So people don't realize, I think people have seen the news that DeAndre Ayton, rookie last year, he was actually very good last year. He had 16 points a game, as well as 8 rebounds a game for the Suns. So he was actually a really good player. He went under the radar. He was banned for 25 games this year for using a diuretic, which is the 25-game suspension is one of the longest in NBA history. I think it's like top 5 in the NBA history. And what a diuretic is, most people, when you hear diuretic, you would think maybe like a diarrhea or something along those lines, but it actually helps you urinate more. And essentially, if you have a illegal drug in your system or a substance that's banned by the NBA, if you urinate, you can remove it from your system faster. So if he pees more, to keep it frank, he pees more, he won't have the drugs in the system. So that's why diuretics are banned in the NBA. So you can't cover up other substances that you're using. So just a little explanation on what that was.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and shout out to Ty Jerome on the Suns. I hope he's injured right now too. He's also injured for them. He had an ankle sprain, so he's going to be out for 4 to 6 weeks, I think. I think he's going to be reevaluated in 2 to 3 weeks, but we'll see how he ends up. But I hope he gets back out on the court soon. I actually was coaching with his stepfather the other day because his stepdad is actually my sister's basketball coach.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah, so when I was home on break the other week, I was coaching with his stepdad. I was like, I go to Villanova, but I'm still a Virginia fan at heart. Don't worry. And then before I wanted to go in early MVP candidates, but before that, I just want to talk about like Rockets have had some early struggles. Me as a Rockets fan, talk about my team. The Rockets have had some really struggles early on. They're not, the way they're incorporating Russell Westbrook and Harden is going okay, but the team needs to find their heart. Individually, Russell Westbrook and James Harden have had really good games. Like them sharing the ball has really not been an issue. They both have had really good stat lines, but they lost the first game to the Bucks, and the second game was really close to the Pelicans. They need to find their identity. I think the number one problem is their defense. Like the Rockets can score at will, but their defense has been a really big issue up until this point. They keep letting up 130 points, 120 points a game. And it's just not the way to go as a team. Definitely need to find our defense. Yeah. If we score all day, we don't score defense. We get outscored. It just doesn't help us. And also, it came up in the news media that they were fighting. They're like really good friends. So if you see them fighting, they're really just talking it out. It's not about them fighting. Even though the news media likes to see them fight, interestingly enough. So yeah. And then I was going to move on to early MVP candidates. Some players that have been doing exceptionally well. The first one that comes to mind for me is Kyrie Irving. Yeah, he dropped 50 points in his first game, 26 in his second game, and I forget what he scored in his game on from there, but he's been doing exceptionally well.
Yeah.
It seems like him having control of the Nets, he seems like he's happier there, and he's also performing better. So if you're a Nets fan, pretty exciting news for you.
He'd be happier with the Knicks.
Another player which I want to give a shout out to, which has been kind of going under the radar, is Derrick Rose.
Yeah.
He's almost averaging 30 points a game. I think it's like 25.1 points per game. He's been doing really. He's off the bench too.
Really?
Which people don't seem to be. Yeah, he's on the bench. He's averaging 25 a game. So, shout out to him. Karl Anthony Towns has been doing very well. Those are some early MVP. I want to say they're MVP candidates, but players have been performing really well off the get-go. I just wanted to shout out real quick.
Mm-hmm. Trae Young's been doing really good too.
Yeah, Trae Young as well has been playing very well.
Obviously, Giannis too.
Yeah, Giannis as well.
But he's like
LeBron's been doing okay. Everyone you expected, but I'm just like there's some players like Derrick Rose and Kyrie that you weren't too sure about how they were going to do, but they've been performing really well. So.
And also Doncic
as well. Yes.
With Kristaps, great, he's wonderful.
Yeah.
I hate him, but whatever. Actually, today was the first day that I had this Kristaps shirt, and today was the first day I actually wore it again. Just a little look into my life, if anyone was wondering. I guess that's it for basketball. Some college stuff that Nick wants to tell us all.
Yeah, we got college. We're just going to do a college section from now on, since we do football and basketball here. Well, I do. So college football this week was pretty interesting. Had some good upsets. Definitely some games I want to cover here. Starting it off, we'll just go through the games real quick. Clemson won again. They're up to 8-0, 59-7. Michigan upset Notre Dame. They were the 15th spot. They moved up to 14. They won 45-14 against Notre Dame. Notre Dame was at 8, and they fell to 16. It seems that every year that Notre Dame has a good seeding and they don't do well. In my opinion, Michigan's a lot better than their seeding. They're 6-2, but they lost to, I believe, was it Penn State and Ohio State? I'm not sure who they played, but they've lost to really good teams. I think I don't think they're going to make the college playoffs, but look for them to finish somewhere high in the seedings. UCLA wins again. Chip Kelly, even though they're 3-5, Chip Kelly seems to be doing either he kills a team or they lose pretty badly. Oregon moves to 7-1. I guess the biggest upset of the week was Kansas State upset Oklahoma. Oklahoma loses their first game of the year, and they move to the 10 slot, moving them out of the 5 slot. So that was a huge upset. LSU just skins by Auburn, the 11 seed, and that effectively moved LSU up into the 1st seed, which I think they are deserving of as of right now. So I mean, in terms of upsets of the week, Oklahoma was really the big game. And in terms of the seedings have really moved around a lot, and I think it's kind of unexpected to everyone how the seedings are working out right now. The top 5 seeds right now are LSU at 1, Alabama at 2, Ohio State at 3, Clemson at 4, and Penn State at 5. All 5 of these teams, I believe, are exceptional. All 5 of these teams, I think, deserve playoff spots. But again, as we talked about a couple podcasts ago, that there's only 4 seeds, and I think that should be reconstructed. But as for now, I think all 5 of these teams are really good. I think LSU definitely deserves the number 1 spot. Joe Burrow is really good for them. Ohio State's been really good with Fields, MVP candidate. Alabama, I really never in the news, but they're Alabama, right? They're always going to do well. Clemson, again, I haven't heard much about them in the news, but they're really good. I really don't see why they're at the, from 1 to 4. I think LSU is definitely number 1 because they're like probably the hottest team in the college right now. But in terms of like Alabama to Ohio State to Clemson to Penn State, it's like it's so hard to put them, rank them. I don't, where they're ranked is really does not matter in my opinion. So that's college football for the week. And then also Villanova football lost to Stony Brook yesterday due to our terrible time management from our coach, possibly fired. No, he's probably not going to get fired, but it was pretty upsetting yesterday. We were up 28-10.5. I was at the game yesterday. Up 28-10.5. They started blowing the lead. We were up 15. I think we were up 35 to something. I can't remember, 21 or whatever it was. We were up like almost 15 with 4 minutes left. And we wound up blowing the game. We actually had the ball up 2 because they failed the 2-point conversion to tie the game up. We had the ball with 1:30 left, and because of terrible clock management, we ended up getting a penalty, and we gave the ball back to Stony Brook with like 30 seconds left on the clock. They threw a post route for about like 40 yards down the field, caught it right in front of our end zone, they kicked the field goal for the win. It was very depressing to see. Stony Brook wins 36-35 in that game.
Wow.
It was pretty disappointing.
Sounds disappointing.
And college basketball is just around the corner. I actually wanted to talk about preseason rankings real quick, just to cover those. So for pretty interesting preseason rankings, I think they're all decently fair as of right now. I know what the number 1 seed. I'm going to pull them up real quick. Number 1 seed was James. I'm going to say Jameis Winston. What?
Definitely not that.
Cassius Winston. That's why. It's Cassius Winston, and Michigan State are at the top of the pre-seed rankings. And then, what was number 2? Why can't I find it? I should have had this prepared beforehand, because it's totally my fault. I never wanted to talk about it, but not until now. I don't know why. Okay, here we go. So Michigan State, number 1, Cassius Winston. They have a really good team around him, so I definitely think they're the number 1 spot deserving that. Tom Izzo is going to be great for them this year. Kentucky is ranked number 2. Not really sure who they picked up this year, but they did lose P.J. Washington and Tyler Harrow, which were really big players for them. Number 3 was Kansas. I'm just going to do top 10. Kansas. Villanova plays in December, which I'm going to go see that game. Should be interesting.
That's exciting.
Not really sure who they have. Louisville comes in at number 4. Oh wow, this is a different list from the actual list. This is on NBC Sports that I'm looking up, and we have Villanova ranked at 5. That's pretty interesting. I was looking for the AP poll, AP preseason poll. This is my bad. I clicked on the wrong one. Okay, here we are. I have the right one now. So I'm just going to go through real quick. Michigan State, number 1. Kentucky at 2. Kansas 3. Duke 4. Louisville 5. Florida at 6. Maryland at 7. Gonzaga at 8. North Carolina at 9. And Villanova at 10. So Villanova, college basketball, we're looking pretty good this year. We have a lot of young talent. I don't know if we're going to win the Natty this year, but I definitely could see us winning the Natty in 1 or 2 years, so I'm pretty excited to go here. Hopefully I can experience that while I'm here.
That's really exciting.
Yeah, so that about college covers college for the week.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll get into our little controversial topic that we hinted at earlier. So I guess I'll introduce it a little bit. So the Jets are playing the Patriots, and Sam Darnold was mic'd up. Interesting enough, a game that he really struggled in, and he said that he was seeing ghosts, which we'll get into. And the Jets took it as ESPN was not doing their due diligence with picking what to mic up, what to broadcast, because they saw the seeing ghost comment as something that would embarrass Sam Darnold and just make him seem like unprepared and stuff. And so now the Jets came out and said that they question if they're ever going to let their players be mic'd up again. If you have any more background on that.
Yeah, that's about covers it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my opinion on it,
okay.
Obviously, didn't play football or anything, so I can't say from experience or anything, but I don't really see why that's that big of an embarrassment. Obviously, Sam Darnold did not do well. There's no reason to not... I mean, he just played really bad. Everyone can agree with that. I guess it does show that he maybe wasn't prepared enough, which could be a thing that might seem embarrassing for the coaching staff and everything like that. But I really didn't see that big of a problem with it. And I've kind of been waiting for something like this to happen with the whole mic'd up thing. I mean, I'm surprised nothing has happened like this. I'm sure actually there has been stuff, but I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. I think... I don't want to say it's really the Jets' fault because it's the NFL. They want to mic up, the big players on the team. The Jets really don't have that many. Sam Darnold's really the key to the team right now. Yeah. And I think it's really what was it? NBC airing it?
ESPN.
ESPN.
Yeah.
It's really ESPN's fault. They need to know what to allow on the air and what not to. Something like a seeing ghost comment. It doesn't really add anything, but drama to the situation. It's not constructive to what happened, or it's not. There's a way he complained. He's like, I didn't see that defender, or we should change this. Going into the next play, they could have I don't know if it really depends on what he says, but seeing ghosts, what he means by that is, if people don't know, he was just imagining seeing a defender. Like he was going to throw to that open route, but he imagined seeing a defender there, so he didn't throw it. He threw to a contested one and threw an interception. So it was just really ultimately what it really means is he was just really confused by the Patriots defense and really didn't know how to handle them. and that's just something you don't really want to air on. You know, it doesn't really help to air on PTV for him to say that. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I really don't think it's all that bad as the news media is blowing it up to be. You know, they're just saying he was struggled against the Patriots defense, and at the end of the day, who hasn't? They're the best defense in the NFL, and again, statistically, the best defense that we've ever seen in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So it's really not the end of the world that he said it. I just think it's, you know, it's not good for ESPN to air something like that because it's you know, it's kind of deceiving. You know, you put your trust in the NFL that you're gonna show my bad moments in somewhat of a positive light. You know, you don't have to really throw me into the dirt.
Yeah.
So, you know, next time the ESPN's got to be careful about what they air. The Jets definitely have the right to be angry, but at the same time, you know, not too angry. It's not the end of the world. You're going to move on from this.
Yeah,
so
that's how I feel. It doesn't really. There's not much to it. I guess that's it for this week's podcast. Do you have any parting words or final words, Nick?
Sure. I just wanted to give Brian a quick shout out for his interview with Keith Wright Jr.
Well, thanks.
Yeah, I just thought it was really good content, and if you guys are listening up to this point, which I hope you are, definitely go check the article out. I think it really has some really good stuff in it, some really interesting stuff that me and Brian were talking about before we went on air. You know, this is those type of interviews are definitely going to bring us to the next point in where we want to be. You know, having insight on a foreign player like that, because I don't know about you guys, but for me, you know, something like knowing what an international player, somebody that maybe had NBA dreams and didn't make it, and decided, you know, this man went to Harvard, so he, you know, although he was an athlete, he was able to, because, you know, I know a lot of student athletes, and they're not all idiots. A lot of them, you know, they go to the same classes as you, although they may take the quote unquote easier ones. They still go to a prestigious university. You know, I actually have an athlete in one of my classes here at Villanova. I actually have a few, so it's like, you know, they take the same classes as you, and at the end of the day, although they might be taking the quote unquote easier ones, they still got to compete. So, you know, ultimately what I'm trying to say is that Keith Wright Jr. He's a pretty smart guy. And he decided to stick with his basketball career rather than, you know, just take his Harvard degree and go into somewhere else. So it really shows testament to his passion for basketball. And it's also a really interesting move that he's willing to go overseas to an area probably where he's never been and go play basketball in a random country. Mm-hmm. I think he's in Sweden right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's in Sweden right now. You know, getting some insight on, you know, what that is like is pretty interesting to me. I hope it's interesting to you guys. So yeah, shout out to Brian and Keith for that. And as always, you know, this podcast is a work in progress. We might be adding a new member to the podcast. We're unsure. We'll see how that goes. Just a heads up in case it does happen. And as always, if you have any comments, questions, concerns, leave them down in the comments below. Or you can contact me at nick.horvath on Instagram, nicholas.horvath10 at yahoo.com, or my Twitter, which has been popping off lately. You know, I've been going crazy on there. Some good political content on there too. If you guys are interested in any political content, I'm trying to convert my Twitter into a little more professional account type of thing. It's Nick Horvath. My handle's at Nick Horvath61. So check me out on Twitter. So yeah. We're gonna keep working at it. You know, we're taking steps as much as we can in school. You know, it's picking up for us right now. Yeah. We're just getting past midterms.
Definitely.
Hope you guys are having a good year, whether you're in school or you're at work, whoever's listening. You know, thanks for listening. I'm gonna hand it over to Brian. See you guys next week.
Yeah. Definitely exciting to be able to do interviews, like Nick said. Follow us on our Instagram. It passed 2,000 followers this week, which is exciting. So another, I guess, milestone, you'd say. Other than that, we'll be back next week. Let us know what you thought about our podcast. If you have any comments, put them down below or contact us since our podcast is also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So you can go see them there or listen to them. Obviously, that's the reason they're on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Check out our YouTube. We're posting daily videos. Also, our Instagram, kind of daily content. I don't really know. It's just whenever. If you have any interest writing for us, editing videos, graphic designs, or anything, contact us at TheSportUniverse2019 at gmail.com. And thanks for listening.